Welcome back, sports fans. Here again, joined by Dane Pavlovsky. My name is Greg Buckner, and this is another edition of the Pioneer Sports Preview. Moving on to this week here, first week of the high school football playoffs. Got a lot of teams in action this Friday and Saturday. Let's start off with our picks right away. Let's start with the first game here. Nuevo at Reed City. Another matchup of two teams that have pretty good history with one another, squaring off in the playoffs for the first round here, conference foes. This game, what's your thoughts on this outcome?
I think it's Reed City, and Nuevo did beat Reed City earlier this year. A couple years ago, Nuevo knocked off Reed City in the playoffs, but beating Reed City at Reed City twice in one season, that's a tall task. I like the Coyotes.
Yeah, I think in my pick too, it's going to be a really tight game, but I do think Reed City's going to find a way to get out of there with a win. Moving on here, we also have Chippewa Hills going to be hosting a playoff game here, going against Lakeview, a team that used to be a conference foe before they split up in the two divisions of CSA this year. Thoughts on this one?
Lakeview did beat Chippewa Hills last year, but getting that split, Chip going to the gold, Lakeview going to the silver. Lakeview, that 8-1 record, maybe a little different. They did beat one CSA gold opponent this year, but man, Chippewa Hills, I think, getting the home field advantage, that's going to be big in Remus. They have a lot of fans come out. They fill those bleachers, and they make it rock over there at Chippewa Hills. And I think with that home field advantage and that tough defense, the Warriors will be able to get through this one.
I do think so as well. I think having home field advantage is going to be key. And talking to Coach Larry Joes, he said, last year's loss to Lakeview kind of stuck with them a little bit. So they want to come out and get a little revenge going on in this game in front of their home crowd. So moving on here, we also looking at Baldwin going into this game. They got the Northwestern 6 League champions taking on another Northwestern 6 League team in Brother, and they got in at 5-4. The quarterback, Brandon Childress, is going to be out after an unfortunate thing where he got ejected from last week's regular season finale for coming out on the field without his helmet on. But I do think in this one, personally myself, they're not going to have too much of a fight with the Bobcats, as much as it pains me to say that about my alma mater. So what's your thoughts on this game?
I think you're exactly right. They beat Brethren 43-6 earlier this season. Brandon didn't even play that much in that game. And, his brother, a freshman, Braden Childress, was the plan for quarterback coming into this season. He's been able to play about the second half of almost every game this season with how much they're beating teams by. So I think, Braden, it's not like it's a kid who's never took snaps, who's never ran that offense. I think they'll be fine. Obviously, you lose out some playmaking ability without Brandon, but I think they'll be okay against Brethren.
Yeah, I'm going to say that's probably going to be a good thing, too, because like I said, half the season he played anyway, so I don't think it's going to be too much of a learning curve for him going in that one. Moving on, we have Morley Stanwood hitting the road for a game with Sanford Meridian. Mohawks getting back in the playoffs after a couple-year drought there. So your thoughts on that one?
After seeing Morley Stanwood and Chase Hunty leading that, 2-minute drill down to beat Big Rapids, I'd be hard-pressed to say that they could ever lose again after that. Just that Disney storyline kind of. But when you think about it, that was against a 1-8 Big Rapids team that's really struggled this year. Morley Stanwood, they did win a lot of games toward the end of the season there to punch their playoff ticket, but they haven't been to the playoffs for a while. None of the kids on the roster have any playoff experience. Sanford Meridian's been there a few times in the last few years. I think they'll make it a good game. Those kids are all at the peak right now. They're playing really tough, but I think Sanford Meridian, too much experience. They have home field. I think Morley struggles there.
I think that will be the deciding factor. I do think the Mohawks obviously going to come out a little emotional high after last week and get in there after the couple-year drought. But I do think it's just going to be a little bit too much by Sanford Meridian there at home, and I do think they're going to kind of pull away a little bit in the fourth quarter. But I do think it's going to be a pretty contested game. Moving on, we also have Pine River heading off to Tawas. Pine River have a pretty explosive offense this year, and they had to win their last game as well to get in the playoffs this week. So just thoughts on that game, and if the Bucks can keep it going with offensive success they've had this year.
They have a lot of offense, and Brandon Folks obviously has been setting and breaking his own record all season for yards and points and everything. So Pine River, that offense is explosive, but Tawas, they've scored over 320 points this year. They've allowed just over 100. When you score a bunch and you allow not very many, you usually win games. And, it showed in their record 7-2. And Pine River, it's been a great year. They're back for the first time since 2005, but I think it ends early.
Yeah, like you said, I think any football coach will tell you if you stop people from scoring, you put points on the board, you're going to do all right for yourself. But I do think that's going to be a big thing there. Their defense is going to bottle up the Bucks a little bit. I think they might, if they can get a little early momentum going, get some confidence going, might be able to make it a game. But I do think the Tawas is going to, ultimately, their defense is what's going to be the deciding factor in this game. And kind of wrap this up here, our last game for our area. A cool story here about Crossroads. First man 8-year football, or 8-man football. Now broke off a 5-game winning streak to end the season and get into the playoffs for the first time in program history. Going to Deckerville for their first round. Thoughts on this game? You see the Cougars coming out and keeping their storybook season going.
And, that's it. It's been great. They started out, struggled, 4 straight losses, but they won out the rest of the way to get the playoffs. First year of 8-man, but when you look at Deckerville, obviously it's pretty long trip over to that side of the state. So that's got to play into it a little bit. First playoff game ever for the Cougars. That's got to be kind of a factor. And when you look at Deckerville, they're 7-2. 2 losses in 8-man, but the 2 losses come to the defending 8-man champions, Peck.
That's true.
And the team that lost to Peck in the state man championship, Lawrence. So, obviously Deckerville a tough team. The Cougars have been great, like you said, a great story so far this year. But, they've been proving us wrong all season, but this time, that's a tall task to take on Deckerville at Deckerville in the playoffs.
Like you said, I think, going against Peck, a team, Crossroads open up the year against the defending 8-man champs, and they're no joke. Definitely, if you look at those games, just the common opponents and everything, I do think that's going to be the difference. Deckerville is going to come out, but what a season for the Cougars there. Finishing with 5 wins, definitely a good start for them.
Definitely.
First year getting that 8-man program going, get a little confidence going, but I do think it will be the end of the line with them after playing Deckerville. But there's no shame in that because Deckerville's a really good team.
Oh, definitely.
Alrighty, folks. Well, thank you again for joining us for edition of the Pioneer Sports Preview. Remember, you can always log on to www.bigrapidsnews.com and pick up an edition of the Pioneer every day in print.